In last week's episode, we introduced you to Jibsea 2, our new to us 2000 custom aluminum 45-foot sailboat, designed by Philippe Sobrero, a French naval architect, and built in British Columbia, Canada. Prior to getting her all neat and tidy and opening the doors for a boat tour in our last episode, we had to do some cleaning, unloading, and some initial learning and settling into life aboard our new vessel. In this episode, we'll take you through our beginning stages of getting to know Jibsea 2. We love the enthusiasm you've shown so far in our new floating home and tank of a vessel. You've got a lot of questions about her, and frankly, so do we. This is all very new to us, so we don't have all the answers just yet, but we're excited and eager to learn while sharing the journey with you. We started by removing the batteries on board that no longer hold a charge when unplugged from the dock.
These are lithiums, then we gotta put the AGMs in.
With 420 amps, it's not a lot, but hopefully will be enough to get us by.
Not bad. About a minute, I guess. Positives hooked up. This is all temporary because we have a whole set of lithium batteries. Just kind of like a down and dirty, get us out of here, make this work. Kind of fitting. Just hooking the battery charger up to the batteries, putting the batteries into parallel.
Next, we got to familiarizing ourselves with the water system on board.
It's about 1,000,000 degrees on the boat. It's been very rainy and we've had to keep everything closed because we don't have bug screens that fit yet on any of the hatches or the port lights. So we've got like this big industrial blower going and we've got 1,000,000 fans buzzing and it's just really loud in here. So you'll just have to bear with us with the audio if it's poor. Travis is just in here converting the freshwater flush into a saltwater flush, and we want the saltwater flush because for offshore purposes we don't want to be wasting fresh water every time we flush. And it's kind of like a weird system. You have to fill the sink and then press the button, which it is an electric flush, gotta have that. So you fill the sink and then flush it with the button. There is a holding tank, but it also has the capability to flush overboard. So if we're
for us.
So if we're doing that, like, you might as well flush salt water. The less stuff that's in there, the less it stinks, and then you don't have to worry about releasing it and all of that. So he's been working away in the hot, sweaty dungeon dealing with that. All right, first things first, check out how big that toilet bowl is. It's a full size.
Yeah, like solid.
It fits Travis's whole butt.
It's my big old caboose, so I'm pretty happy about that.
This sink is what we had to fill up.
Yeah, we'd fill this up and then press the flush button and it would go down. And we had two outlets here. One went to the sink for saltwater sink rinse with a foot pump, but I don't care for that. I don't think we'll use that. It's kind of already all set up. So I just had to replumb it back in. Ran this from the saltwater pickup through a strainer up to an anti-siphon, and you want the anti-siphon for pretty much what it sounds like. You want an anti-siphon so it doesn't continually pick up water, because the pressure of the water in the tank, especially where like water line is right here, so the bowl is actually under the water, you want an anti-siphon. And a filter because you're picking up seawater. Yeah, that's it, just plumbing it in. Let's see if it works.
Boat also had a whole bag of goodies here.
Yeah, the boat came with really good spare parts. Endless. It's not filling up a tank, so go straight overboard. Get that poop out that pipe. Hold that button.
The plumbing fun doesn't stop here.
Whoa! There's raw pork in there!
That's funny. So our sink leaks, and then the air goes into the line, and then when the pump pushes it, oh, my eyes are burning. Steph's making dumplings. And she cut onions, so the air leaks into the faucet and then it explodes.
Right now we don't have any of our kitchenware. We just brought the bare minimum, so I don't have a big enough bowl to do my gyoza in. That's why it's separated into 2 bowls. I launched our e-cookbook, which is 100 recipes from the Jibsea Galley, and this recipe is one of them. If you are interested in picking up a copy, like downloading a copy, we'll leave the link up here for you to check out. So I really loved the U-shaped galley that we had on Jibsea because it was like your own little cooking nook, and I could brace myself when we were underway, kind of just, holding myself all around.
But we figured that having this laneway galley would be more functional for both Travis and I to be working at the same time. So we did have difficulty in Jibsea if we both wanted to be in there. Say Travis is trying to get in the fridge and I'm trying to wash dishes or cook or whatever. But
Or you would cook, I'd wash dishes sometimes, and like we just bump
sometimes he washes.
most of the time.
So yeah, we figured that we could just pass by each other quickly. Like he could be washing dishes here and I could be cooking and getting stuff from the fridge. The only thing is the way that it's designed right now, it's not functional for us because although there's a lot of space, a lot of it's not usable when I'm actually cooking. So for example, this contraption here is like a dish rack, garbage disposal entry from the top and the front, which I don't hate. I do like this one here. A little salt water.
Had a salt water.
Yeah, it had a saltwater sink, so that's the basin, and then basin here. That took up all of my counter space because this is where our fridge access is. I was just doing all my stuff here. In order to access the fridge, I'd have to move everything over to either the stove, which isn't ideal.
Because it could be hot.
Yeah. And it's just like, you know, there's slots. Or I'd have to move it over here, which is essentially our dish rack. And like slicing stuff, you know, on cutting boards, it's rigid. So it's not ideal. So I literally had to go like this and then lift stuff out, take it out, and then I'd be like, okay, where am I going to put it? That's what we're working with now, but it will definitely be one of the first things we change.
Front loading drawer fridge here. We'll have to redo this kitchen and add like drying rack right here and then have the sink right here. And then she'll have all this space here for working space. And then when we get rid of the top loader, she'll have a lot more working space on either side of the stove. And then the fridge will just kind of drawer out. So that'll be our first kind of big project on the list, which sucks because the woodworking on this boat is like really nice.
The woodworking is great, but the countertops are not even real countertops.
No, they're just like a vinyl sheet, which is weird because they'll get all shit kicked.
Well, yeah, they get stained. Like it looks dirty, even though we've tried scrubbing and wiping it down with everything. It just always stays dirty. This plastic is not doing it for me because it just looks dirty, even though we've scrubbed, disinfected.
Yeah.
It's just
like,
I don't like that.
Sucks. It's a cool unit, but
it's
ideally it should have been the other way around. So it would have been annoying, but at least it would have been on this side. Anyways, it's our little downfall of the kitchen, but I think for you and I working and still being able to pass each other, I think it'll be good once it's set up how it should be set up.
We got an Amazon order in and we changed out our faucet and soap dispenser to pretty much exactly what we had on Jibsea 1. This is just a black one. And then this one is a really heavy duty Moen one, and it's really skookum. They match, they're nice. And this one you just fill the soap through the top. We don't have to keep a big bottle underneath the sink or anything. It just fills in through in that hole. You just pour the soap in, which is awesome. Yeah, now this is a beauty.
Just gotta figure out something for a paper towel holder now.
Yes, got a lot of things to figure out, but this was a nice first little change.
The reason we changed this out right away is we have a big crossing and we wanted to be more efficient with our water usage, and the last faucet was like an open hose and just the seals were going, so this will just be more efficient for our crossing. And we obviously, since we did this Amazon order, might as well went and got that guy too.
And now we changed the faucet, it doesn't leak, so it doesn't have that sputtering water coming out. And it's got the shower function, which I love.
Favorite right here. Now we can clean the sink.
Yeah. Very, very happy.
One thing that's really exciting about this boat is that now we have 3 water tanks. On Jibsea, we only ever had one 60-gallon tank, so we constantly had to refill our water in 3 days. Like we were completely out after 3 days, so this is a nice change for us to know that we have lots of water. Right now, I think the first tank isn't working, right?
Yeah, we're still learning it. It's one original tank, and I haven't explored that yet, but there's 2 new tanks here.
So we just figured out how that works because we've never had more than one tank to deal with. With tank 2 and tank 3, fill tank 3, which then had a transfer pump that moved tank 3 water into tank 2 water, right? That's what happened?
We're still learning it. The pump should take from 2 and 3. There's a Y valve on the fill hose, and if one is closed, then it'll just fill one of the tanks. So instead of filling one of the tanks, changing the valve, and then filling the other tank, you can just fill one tank and then hit a transfer pump, and then it'll just transfer over to the other tank, and then the water pump just pulls from both tanks.
The tanks are under his butt.
We totally flooded the boat.
So what happened was this little looking glass here on tank 3 was not sealed.
Yeah, and we let the hose run, and it popped this up, and it flooded.
It just came right out over into this area, which will obviously need to be fixed up because it's not the greatest looking.
We didn't obviously do that. I'm pretty sure the original tanks leaked, and they destroyed the floor there. And then they had to remove that area, like this whole thing, to put these tanks in. But yeah, whoever put this in, this is a piece of glass, so you can't drill through it.
Oh, and it was awful because
siliconed it on.
And the silicone bits were like flaking into the tank too.
Kind of cool because our other tanks, we didn't ever have access ports to look visually in. So now we can visually look in.
I'm kind of glad we didn't, because now that I kind of see.
No, but these tanks are really clean, and eventually we're going to get them clean too. So like here, you can see inside there. You fill from the dock, and I don't know, there's some brown stuff in there, so we thought it would have been a good idea to install a carbon filter. We just plumbed it in right before the water pump, and yeah, our water tastes actually like a lot better now, and at least anything in there won't make it to our faucet.
Tank 1 is
tank 1's in
this area. We should have 140 gallons of water between the 3 tanks, but we're not 100% sure. That's tank 1, which you can tell is definitely the older one. The plastic is softer and yellower. So I can't see how far back it goes right now. Oh, here.
Over here.
I don't know. That looks like it could be the same.
I think it's 60.
Yeah, that might be 60 then if it's a little bit bigger.
One day. We'll see if that works or how it works.
Well, if anything, we've probably got 80 there now, which is still more than what we had, I guess.
Yeah. Like, if we had the full tankage, that'd be pretty sweet.
And while we're here, that's our diesel tank number 1.
And that's a whole other learning thing because there are also 3 diesel tanks. So a lot of tankage on this boat.
Same thing, 140 gallons of diesel, which is really awesome.
We had 80 on Jibsea.
Yeah, so just the more tankage you have, the more remote places you can go and the more self-sustainable you are.
And not feel like you have to find the next place to fuel up or whatever.
Yeah.
When it comes to boats, more often than not, you'll look at one thing and then shift to another, kind of like what we did here. So back to this viewport.
Personally, I don't like anything that's just cocked. Like, there could be a lot of pressure on these tanks, especially when you're filling or if you're just underway and the water's sloshing around. So you really should just need a gasket and screwed. So I went and made this out of a hole saw, melted the edges, and then drilled through here. We have a piece of rubber here, and that's going to be the gasket. And then I just tapped and dyed all these holes. So then we should just be able to put that in place like that. It's tinted, which sucks, but at least I can still see in there. And
I'd rather have it tinted than exploding and flooding with water.
Yeah, and I can remove this a lot easier than it being totally glued in place.
That looks really nice. When you go to that one, not so nice.
That's no good.
Does somebody want to do another one?
Yeah, but here's the...
Well, hold on. That one is solid, though.
Yeah, this one doesn't leak, so I'm not going to touch it, but I'm going to... Shit. But
that one looks so much better. And you've already got this one down pat, so just a matter of if you want to do it all over again.
I got to test that one first. But
yeah,
I also need to make 3 more for the diesel tanks, because someone did the exact same thing. They took out the fuel senders, and then they just glued in some glass, but I want to replace the tank leveler gauges again. So it'd be like doing it for now and then taking it away later. So
and you definitely don't want a diesel leak.
No, I definitely don't. But I have a better idea for that. But now we just got to test that is watertight.
For those who love a good DIY, the next 53 seconds are for you.
Alright, so how you make one of these, you need a hole saw of your dimensions, a throwaway board, you cut out your hole with a hole saw, and obviously you're going to put a hole in the middle. And what you're left with is a guide layer. Take out the center bit, clamp it to what you're actually going to be cutting out. Use your guide template, and then you clamp the top board, and then you're going to have a hole saw with no center bit, and then go in there, and it'll follow it perfectly. And then you're left with one of these with no hole in the center. And then what I'm going to do is sand down this outer edge, and then you hit it with a torch. You'll just get these little bumps, but I'm going to sand those back off. At least it gives it a cleaner edge that shouldn't crack or anything.
And the only way for us to really test it to make sure that that's all secure and good is by overflowing the tank and hoping that it doesn't flood out like it did the first time.
She's going to fill the water, and we're going to see how this looks.
Moment of truth. Ready?
Yep. Ooh, she's getting to the top. She's at the top. Pull it. Ah, we got a leak, but it's not from that. It's from another port. Damn.
How was it?
It's coming out of a different port, but this thing's done. It's solid. It's perfect. But now, this fitting that leaks. That now looks way better than that, but this doesn't leak. But since I have all the tools to do everything right now, do I just peel that off and install that? Because I think that is just way more proper than that. It's more work, but I feel like it'll be proper. Like just seeing something that doesn't have any screws in it for an access port, to me, doesn't make it very offshore. Because like we're in serious seas, you got water sloshing around, like, and eventually it's not gonna hold. And then I'll be doing this in shitty sea state, trying to seal it, which would be even worse than dead calm.
So you know what?
Probably gonna do it.
Yeah, I think you just answered your own question.
Yeah, it's usually what I do.
Gotta talk it out.
Yeah, it makes it official. Like, well, yeah, that makes sense.
All right, so both viewports have been changed out. They're looking good. And then the leaky connection over there, we just sealed around it with some plastic weld. And then we did the same with a couple of the other connections that are under there as well, just to make sure everything was leak proof.
So we actually found this part, which looks like it was this part here.
It would have went here somewhere.
Yeah, it would have been a nice finishing piece, but then you wouldn't have been able to slide in and out of the settee. I'm sure, like, we'll fix this up. And then Travis found something else.
So just going under the forward bed, and I found all these old wood pieces, and I found the step that was supposed to go here, which that's why it looks like shit here. Because obviously when these tanks were leaking, I imagine, they would have had to remove this step and this whole piece. At least it would cover up this if we put this step back. Just trying to think now if we add that step back in or not.
I don't need the step
I don't think we
function-wise.
ever step on it to get up.
No. And I feel like it would just be one extra, like, toe stubber, but it does finish it nicely just to hide that part. Like, look how nice that looks there.
Yeah, it really does. But it might help you be able to step here to, like, reach up.
You can tell it wasn't on very long because it's extra glossy in comparison to everything else.
Yeah. What I'm finding out right now, all the wood on this boat is epoxy. So it's like 100% sealed.
Which is good.
Which is crazy. Yeah. So, it's lots of learning on this boat. It's really cool though. Very well built.
Moving on to the outside, we started off with removing the wind generator that's barely surviving off of one leg. It's dusted and serves no purpose, so goodbye. Now let's move on to the port lights that were covered up when we moved aboard.
There's a port light there, port light here, and now there's one here. And they all leak. I guess from sitting in the tropics for so many years, caulking's eventually gonna go. They had covered them up previously with tape, but like it just kind of destroyed the decks. So I retaped the port lights just around the frames, because obviously you can use a pretty harsh chemical on the frame and not destroy it versus on the paint, which is now destroyed. So I'll have to repaint the decks and the sides. So I think the most common thing is the joint between the hatch, between the upper and lower frame. That's what leaks. And inside is a little track that if it leaks, it drips down here and then goes onto the back side of the seal. This window doesn't leak, and you'll see that there's actual water sitting right there. So I know this seam doesn't leak. What happens is they leak at this joint, drip down behind, and they end up in this little locking track. I don't know if you can see that. If you have water inside this track and it's dripping from behind the seal, it's most likely that's your culprit. I just used a little flathead screwdriver that I bent and I just gouge it out, clean it out. I try to go straight through, so if you have access to the back side, then clean that side too, and then just recock it. Super easy. I did the other side and did like a hose test, and it seemed to be working, but obviously a really heavy rainfall, which we get here in Panama, will really show you where leaks are. So I'll wait for a really heavy rainfall, and hopefully I solved the problem, because it'd be nice to be able to see out of these port lights. So let's get caulking. And then I just have a little kind of piece of plastic. I found a total gem yesterday in the anchor locker. This thing is going to save Steph and I, mostly Steph.
He's got that right. Boat life just got easier.
You already guessed it. It is a self-hoisting bosun's chair. Seems super easy. It's got a ratchet block on the top. Look at this thing. You got a cleat here. When you pull yourself up here and you want to stop, just lock it off like a cleat. And then your weight should hold it. Look, barely holding on to that. That's holding my weight. Look how great this thing is. Now I can just go up and down, I don't have to plug stuff. That's so perfect.
That's the face of a happy sailor. It's a 2-to-1 pulley system comprised of a ratchet block with becket on the top end of the halyard and a regular block on the bottom. To lock off, there's a cleat attached to a metal plate or bar connected at the hoisting point.
Wanted to take a look at this light here. I don't want to clean the bottom of this spreader. A lot of grime. And just to check. See, I've already done this one. Nice and clean now. I think this mast wasn't painted too long ago either. It seems to be in decent shape. There's some oxidization, but I think that's pretty normal with aluminum and paint. She doesn't even know. What? No.
Our discovery of goodies on board doesn't stop here.
This is crazy. I gotta show you this locker. Inside there, maybe 5'9" or so by like 4-5 feet. It's a massive space. Look at everything I pulled out of here.
We're seeing just how beefy the components on Jibsea 2 are. Check out this Skookum swim ladder. We initially thought we may have to purchase a new halyard, but looks like we've got our pick.
Okay, I had to stop there. It keeps going. So you got an anchor ball, tons of spare line. That's the tiller. Those are the old lines. This is like everything that I think that was old over here. This is everything that I think is new. All these spare halyards and lines. Like I think these are the furling ropes. That's the new Genoa sheet. That might be the new staysail sheet. Not sure what that one is. These are halyards for something. This is another Code Zero on a continuous Harkin reflex. That's freaking cool. Hopefully it's not damaged. Seems kind of stiff. This is another older looking sail. I don't know what it is, but it is on a continuous furling as well. Mooring lines, huge balls. Yeah.
What comes out must go back inside. The locker has hooks and a hanging bar where each bundle of rope and fenders can be neatly organized for easy access when we need them. Next, we're moving on to the sails that we plan to keep hoisted.
Alright, time to set up the staysail. Took me a while to figure out all the lines and try to find the sheets, because the sheets I don't think are in the bag, and they're amongst the millions in that locker. So, but I think I found some that'll work. Let's go raise this thing.
That's the protective kiskadee, whose hatchling is in the nest in our anchor that we mentioned in our boat tour video last week.
Oh, the joys of learning a new boat. It's gotta furl out the other way, because if it doesn't furl out the other way, the sun cover is gonna be on the wrong side. Nice thing about this boat is the two forward lifelines from the last single stanchion to the pulpit. It opens up. Oh, look at that!
We're cleaning our head sail, and there's a bit of staining on it, like not sure if it's gonna come off with the soap and water, if it's like permanently stained in there. We are pretty much done the one side here, and all we had was laundry detergent. So it did an okay job, but I'm sure if we had like a proper sail and mildew cleaner, it would have taken a lot of the stain out of the canvas. We didn't do it before, but these stains here were very, very dark, almost like a charcoaly gray black color. And now we've gotten them faded down to a brown. But the more important part is that this sail is pretty much unused. The quality of the canvas is still really good. All of the stitching is intact. The canvas feels crisp. This sail is from Fort Lauderdale from like 2017 or something. So that would have been where the boat was last. And it's been kind of sitting since. So you can tell that the only real flaw to the sail is the staining that happened from it being folded up and stored away on the boat.
Yeah, I don't see anything wrong with it. Just
The staining.
yeah, yeah. That's why you don't leave sails on the boat. You tuck them away, like you properly fold them, store them indoors.
Especially in like hot climate.
Yeah, hot muggy climates that rain a lot.
Oh, I guess we are doing the other side. So that's kind of the before right there. You can see how dark some of that was. We've flicked on the instruments and Jibsea 2's leaving the dock for the first time. Hit subscribe if you haven't already. We're getting hauled out of the water in next week's episode. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next Sunday.